All right, the title, The Zombie CVS, a late capitalism horror story. This is about all of the massive retail theft that's going on. And in one CVS in Washington, D.C. in particular, they had to close it down because it just got out of control. And according to the title, well, this is really about capitalism. Oh, wait, that doesn't make any sense. We all know what capitalism is. You know how, you have profits and you use that profits to go and invest in things and all that, whatever. Theft is not a part of the model. Sorry. And hey, I will say this, at least there's things to steal on the shelves of a capitalist society. In communist societies, there's nothing to steal. They don't have anything. Everybody starves. So we're going to go ahead and read this. By the way, it's by Maura Judkis, a typical leftist writer from the Huffington Post and the Washington Post. Now, you may be wondering, why am I reading this thing off what looks like the read panel of Microsoft Word? Well, the original article was so bloated with advertisements, it was really tough to scroll through. So what I did was I just went ahead and pasted it into a Microsoft Word document. But I will post the links in the description below. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis, cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
So it begins. There is almost nothing left to steal at the CVS in Columbia Heights, and that gives you an idea of which items have actual value. All right, blank CDs, for example. The thieves don't even bother with them. The greeting card section has been left alone. And yeah, I know all the jokes about the Father's Day section, okay? I'm not going there. The good magazines like Vogue and GQ and Sports Illustrated are gone. But there are still a few copies of Traditional Home, which they're not homeowners, so that makes sense. Some special issues of Life devoted to Willie Nelson. Sorry, Willie. I guess they're not interested. And a Woman's World that declares, bye-bye jiggly fat. So nobody wants the issue where they talk about cutting weight. I'll let you all talk about that in the comment section. No soft drinks, but 3-gallon-sized jugs of Arizona green tea are still on the shelves on one recent visit. Well, I don't get that. I like Arizona green tea. Is there something wrong with it? Everything else that remains in the store on Northwest DC, which is not much, is under plexiglass. Dawn dish soap, L'Oreal shampoo, Miralax, a handful of Clairol root touch-up hair dye kits. So I guess cosmetic stuff is like in high demand. Floozies and combo packs of Dayquil and NyQuil. Gee, I wonder why they're going after those. The diapers are behind the counter. The Cetaphil and Neutrogena face washes are under lock and key. Other shelves, stretching entire aisles, are totally empty. It has been like this since at least October, where the legend of the empty CVS of Washington began to spread beyond the district's borders. It became a horror story of late capitalism. Oh yeah, this is all about capitalism, everybody. You see, when you have socialism, people don't steal. Tales were told on social media and in the comment sections of local news stories, and they were full of spooky scenes, harsh fluorescent lights shining on bare shelves, and jump scares, hordes of teenagers reportedly ransacking the stores. Wait a minute. Those things are actually happening. I mean, these are not fabrications. But the thing about scary stories is that they metastatize with each retelling. So by the time it got to the New York Post and then the conservative British tabloids and then Twitter accounts with names including #1 deplorable, the empty CVS had somehow become a stand-in for all that is wrong with American cities and liberals and liberal democracy in 2024. Okay, you have to show that they're wrong. Right? Show the people that they're wrong. So basically, she's saying, it's so unfair. They're pointing out that this seems to happen mostly in democratic cities. That's so unfair. Well, is it right or wrong? In the meantime, the zombie CVS kept filling prescriptions, dead but somehow still shuffling along until Thursday when corporate shut it down at last. On Nextdoor, the social media site where neighbors go to ask whether fireworks are gunshots, hey, that's pretty good. I like that. She's not a bad writer. The state of the CVS had become a consistent topic, one that usually devolved into people calling each other thugs or Karens. Okay, show the reader where they have it all wrong. This unchecked lawlessness at any age needs to be stopped, or the criminals will be governing us, wrote one neighbor. Stop with the dog whistle nonsense, wrote another. It's beginning to feel like the Columbia frights of 20 years ago, wrote yet another. America is a sticky-fingered nation built on stolen land. Oh no. Okay, here we go. Let's read on. And its current moral panic is about shoplifting. Oh no. All right. So in other words, we have nothing to complain about because this land was stolen from American Indians 200 plus years ago. Well, okay, 150 years ago. And therefore, the owner of that CVS store has it coming to him. How can he complain? And of course, the problem with this argument is that the people that had their land stolen from them are not the ones going into the stores and stealing. And the owner of the CVS is not the one that stole the land. If that was the case, I think a lot of people would say, yeah, well, it's just desserts, man. That's just the way it is. You took their land and now they're getting even. But that's not what happened here. And this whole idea of a moral panic, I'm not having a moral panic because it's not happening anywhere near me. Not my problem. I think it's hilarious, personally. It's not just a worry in Columbia Heights. All over the country, from sea to shining CVS. Okay, that was not a very good one. Okay, sorry. No, the writer needed to cut that one. There are concerns about petty theft, which some retailers claim is worse than ever before, And by the way, don't give us this crap about it being all over the country. No, this seems to be happening in certain areas that are Democratic controlled. We're talking about cities with long history of Democrat governments. I don't remember this happening in Tulsa. We move on. Videos of brazen thefts have gone viral. It has become a political talking point and a political liability. So she's pissed off that people are talking about this, that people are making political hay out of it. Well, it should be. If you have an increase in crime in any city, it's going to be a political topic. In fact, it's one of the hot ones. People want to live in cities that they feel are safe. They look upon government as helping provide that. And when the city gets more dangerous, people make politics out of it. And it's the same thing for theft or any kind of crime. But the data is murky. Theft has gotten worse in some cities, but better in others. Gee, I wonder which cities it's gotten worse in. See, that's the problem here. Yeah, it's gotten better in some cities. Those aren't the cities that are the problem. You can't look at theft getting better in Des Moines, Iowa, and say, well, the problem in New York City is really not a big deal. I mean, it's gotten better in some other cities. The people in New York City care about New York City. The people in San Francisco care about San Francisco. They don't give a damn if it's gotten better in other places. It's either underreported or over-exaggerated, depending on whether you're asking a corporation or a bureaucracy. What about the store owner? Why don't you ask him or her? And I have a feeling that the answer is not what this journalist here would want to hear. Anecdotes and vibes have filled in the gaps. It doesn't help that 2024 in America feels a bit like visiting a dying mall. Will some new stores open and bring everyone back, or will it be raised to create a parking lot? So instead of acknowledging the problem, we say that, well, there's a lot of disagreement about it. The reasons this particular CVS's shelves have been empty are complex. Oh, yeah, okay, so there's another tactic. Say that the problem is just too hard to understand, so we're just going to forget about it. Crime is on the increase. Yeah, but these causes of crime are very complex. So yeah, as a politician, I'm sorry, we can't even talk about crime because they're too complex. But Carlo Perry, co-chairman of Advisory Neighborhood, Commission 1A's Committee on Public Safety, is trying to break them down as simply as possible. First, there are the economic factors triggering human need, joblessness, inflation, a slow recovery from the pandemic. Wait, I thought that Bidenomics had taken care of these issues. You're talking about joblessness, and all I've heard is how joblessness is on the decline. Oh, what about inflation? Inflation is no big deal, according to the powers that be. And we're recovering fantastic from the pandemic. See, those are the arguments that they use when it's convenient for them. They trot out the idea that there's no joblessness and inflation is under control and we're recovering great from the pandemic. But then when it comes to explaining away criminal theft, all of a sudden these things are brought out as reasons as to why you can't blame them for this. There have also been charges to how police officers do their jobs. A dearth in active policing. Yeah, okay, blame the police. That's it. Blame the police. That started in the pandemic, combined with efforts to use alternative forms of crime deterrent. Yeah, blame the police. They're not using alternatives to crime deterrent. Like what? What the hell is it that you're going to want? What's going to do it? You're bolting down everything to keep it from being stolen. You're letting those who steal out almost immediately. So explain what these alternatives are. But none of these alternatives really were implemented effectively, or as effectively as they could have been. Like what? So we saw this in Oregon, right? They passed Measure 110, and they're going to decriminalize. And you know what happened, right? Drugs skyrocketed, crime skyrocketed, and now they just voted to get rid of Measure 110. And what is everybody saying? Well, Measure 110 was great. They just didn't implement it correctly. It's like communism. Communism is wonderful, except that they just don't implement it correctly, which is what causes every communist government that we have ever seen to devolve into massive human rights violations. It's not that communism is bad. It's just, well, they just didn't implement it like we think they should have. It's the same crap. When our ideas fail, it's because others didn't do their job to implement those ideas correctly. And notice there's no mention here of what those alternatives were. What were the alternatives for people running into stores and grabbing stuff and leaving without paying for them? What, as a police officer, are you expected to do other than arrest them? Well, we saw what happened in Oregon, right? When it came to narcotics, police were actually giving out little tickets, $100 fines, but if the narcotics abuser would take that to a rehab center, they could dismiss the ticket. Of course, what happened? Nobody took the tickets in. Why? They didn't have to pay the fine. They knew they didn't have to pay the fine because what are you going to do to somebody who doesn't pay the fine? You're going to fine them some more? Well, they're not going to pay that either. The only thing that you could do is incarcerate them, but you're not supposed to. So you just keep fining them and nothing ever happens. And so drugs spiral out of control. That dovetailed with CVS policy. Like many retailers, that drugstore chain employs security guards, but instructs them not to pursue shoplifters. Yeah, that solves the crime problem. People won't steal then. Meanwhile, in Washington, city officials say they've observed a rise in organized retail crime, which involves thefts of items to be resold on the street. Okay. If shoplifting is easy and available to you with low accountability, then you know it just is a practical choice, Perry says. He and co-chairman Billy Easley personally met with corporate representatives from CVS to propose solutions, they say. This ought to be good. The store was kept open while the company pondered its options, but left unstocked to prevent further losses, the co-chairs had been told. I guess these solutions take a long time to think about. It's embarrassing for people to walk into a neighborhood CVS or any store and for it to be barren. And there are many families that depended on that store, Easley says. Low-income families. Yeah, that's fine, Easley. What are you going to do about the problem? Perry says they did everything within our powers, as prescribed by the D.C. City Charter, to ensure that these businesses remained. But those powers are limited. In January, CVS announced it would close the store on February 29th. Now, in all fairness, I think the problem is the D.C. City Charter. They might have had some good ideas, but the D.C. City Charter said nope. And I can almost guarantee you that a lot of the times the charter came back and said, you can't do that. That's racist. In a statement, CVS spokesman Amy Thibault called it a difficult decision and noted that all prescriptions would be transferred to another nearby CVS location. Okay. But while she cited factors such as local market dynamics and population shifts to explain the closure, she made no reference to the widely reported incidents of shoplifting and declined to answer specific questions about the Columbia Heights store. Now, does that mean that the writer is saying that there really were no shoplifting problems as acknowledged by this Amy character? Ward 1 council member Brianna Nadeau, who was facing a recall campaign led by a Columbia Heights business executive who feels Nadeau has not done enough to address crime, declined to comment. Mayor Muriel Bowser took a question about the imminent closure of the empty CVS during an unrelated January 25th news conference about a new blood transfusion program. Okay, here's what she said. We have to stop treating it like kids just shoplifting a thing or two, because it's having a real impact on the ability for people to get the goods and services that they need. Okay, why is it only now occurring to you? So the law has to be right. The police have to be able to do their jobs, and the prosecutors have to do their jobs. We do have to send the message in our city that stealing anything anywhere has consequences. There's only one small problem. There are no consequences. You're lying to them, and they know it. There are no consequences. So the mayor is treating this as an awareness problem. It's not an awareness problem, except for the fact that all the criminals are aware that nothing's going to happen to them if they get caught. Before the Washington CVS caught up in the culture wars, it was the San Francisco Whole Foods. The high-end grocery store chain struggled with theft at its primary downtown outpost, as well as the drug use and violence that had frustrated the neighborhood well before the store opened. When these factors led to the store's closing in April 2023, partisan critics on Fox News greeted the news with glee. Okay, yeah, I thought it was pretty funny too. And if you don't like it, put in leaders where this doesn't happen. Don't complain about people making fun of you because you can't keep your foo-foo grocery store open. Do something about the problem so that you don't have the store close. You see, it's those darn Republicans making fun of the problems that's the real problem here. If Whole Foods couldn't make it in San Francisco, the land of $14 kombucha and artisanal faro, I have no idea what that is. I can't even pronounce it. Then things must be really spiraling out of control, said Geraldo Rivera on Fox's The Five. This city is disgusting, declared co-host Jesse Waters. And by the way, I have been to San Francisco within the last couple of years. He's absolutely right. It's terrible. And now they can't have organic rhubarb.